She was called the most beautiful woman in the world. Her eyes were worth $1 million. Her love life made headlines for decades. But behind the glamour and the diamonds lay a story of incredible triumph and devastating fall. Today, we're uncovering the rise and fall of Hollywood's most legendary star. Can you guess who this is? That's right, Elizabeth Taylor. But the woman you'll see at the end of this video will shock you. Stay tuned because this transformation is unlike anything you've ever seen. Our story begins in 1932 when Elizabeth Rosamond Taylor was born in London to American parents. But here's what most people don't know. She almost never became an actress at all. When World War II broke out, the Taylor family fled to America, settling in Beverly Hills. Little Elizabeth was just a normal girl with one extraordinary feature, those legendary violet eyes. A family friend noticed her beauty and suggested she try acting. At age 10, she walked into MGM Studios for a screen test. The executives took one look at those mesmerizing eyes and knew they had found something special. But they had no idea they were looking at the future queen of Hollywood. In 1944, 12-year-old Elizabeth starred in National Velvet, and America fell in love. Overnight, she became the most famous child star in the world. But as we'll see, early fame would become both her greatest blessing and her deepest curse. As Elizabeth grew up on screen, something magical happened. That cute child star was transforming into something the world had never seen before. A beauty so stunning that it literally stopped traffic. By the 1950s, Elizabeth Taylor had become the epitome of Hollywood glamour. Look at these photos. This is a woman in her absolute prime. She wasn't just beautiful, she was magnetic. But Elizabeth wasn't just a pretty face. She could act. Her performances in films like Cat on a Hot Tin Roof proved she had serious talent. Hollywood was at her feet. And then came the marriages. Elizabeth would marry 8 times, twice to the same man. Her first wedding was at 18 to hotel heir Nicky Hilton. The marriage lasted less than a year. This was just the beginning of a pattern that would define her life. But it was her marriage to producer Mike Todd that seemed to bring her true happiness. They were Hollywood's golden couple. Todd showered her with diamonds and love. Elizabeth looked radiant. Finally, she had found her Prince Charming. Then tragedy struck. In 1958, Mike Todd died in a plane crash. Elizabeth was devastated. Look at these photos from the funeral. You can see the pain in her eyes. This loss would change everything. Seeking comfort, Elizabeth began an affair with Eddie Fisher, who was married to her best friend, Debbie Reynolds. The scandal rocked Hollywood. America's sweetheart had become a homewrecker. But this was nothing compared to what was coming next. In 1963, Elizabeth was cast as Cleopatra in the most expensive movie ever made. The production was a disaster, but something else was happening on set that would make international headlines. Enter Richard Burton, the Welsh actor who would become the great love of Elizabeth's life. Both were married to other people, but their chemistry was explosive. Paparazzi photos of their affair were splashed across every newspaper in the world. The scandal was so huge that the Vatican condemned their relationship. Elizabeth was called a woman of loose morals. But she didn't care. She was in love. What followed were the most glamorous years of Elizabeth's life. She and Burton became the world's most famous couple. They bought each other diamonds, yachts, and artworks. Burton gave her the famous Taylor-Burton diamond, 69 carats of pure perfection. Look at these photos from the 1960s. This is Elizabeth at her absolute peak. She's won 2 Academy Awards, she's married to the love of her life, and she's the most famous woman on earth. She had everything. But here's the thing about peaks. There's only one way to go from the top. The first signs of trouble were subtle. Elizabeth had always enjoyed the finer things in life, but now the drinking was becoming more noticeable. The legendary parties were getting wilder. In 1976, Elizabeth and Burton divorced. The fairy tale was over. But wait, there's more. They couldn't stay away from each other. In 1976, they married again. But it lasted only 10 months. Even the greatest love story in Hollywood history couldn't survive their demons. Look at these photos from the late 70s. You can see the change beginning. The face is still beautiful, but something's different. The eyes that once sparkled with joy now show hints of sadness. Elizabeth's movie career was struggling. Films like The Mirror Cracked flopped. The roles were getting smaller. Hollywood was moving on, but Elizabeth was finding it hard to let go. And then came the weight gain. The woman who was once called the most beautiful in the world was now being mocked by tabloids. Fat Liz became a cruel nickname. Can you imagine how that must have felt? The 1980s brought new challenges. Elizabeth's health began to fail. Multiple surgeries, addiction to prescription drugs, and personal tragedies took their toll. Look at these photos. The transformation is heartbreaking. Elizabeth spent much of the 1980s in and out of hospitals. She had over 30 surgeries throughout her life. The beautiful face that launched 1,000 dreams was now showing the effects of decades of excess. But here's what's remarkable about Elizabeth Taylor. Even in her darkest moments, she never lost her spirit. When Rock Hudson died of AIDS, Elizabeth became one of the first celebrities to speak out about the disease. She turned her pain into purpose. Elizabeth raised millions for AIDS research. She used her fame, even diminished, to help others. The woman who was once Hollywood's most selfish star became one of its most generous. This is Elizabeth Taylor in her final years. The violet eyes are the same, but everything else has changed. The woman who was once the most beautiful in the world had become human. From this to this. It's one of the most dramatic transformations in Hollywood history. But here's the thing. Elizabeth Taylor's true legacy isn't her beauty or her scandals. It's her resilience. She fell hard, but she never stopped fighting. When Elizabeth Taylor died in 2011, the world mourned not just a movie star, but an icon. She lived life on her own terms. The rises and the falls, the triumphs and the tragedies. What do you think? Was Elizabeth Taylor's fall inevitable, or could she have avoided it? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to see more incredible Hollywood transformations, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next.